So we're throwing a lot of player props out here, and you might hear a couple you like, a couple you hate, and you like to fade us on. But what if you are in a state that doesn't allow legalized gambling, and or you don't have a bookie, or you don't know how to get a bookie? We got a solution for you. It's not sports betting; it's games of skill. Over on the Underdog app. Underdog gives you a crazy amount of player props, and I think there's like 73 of them for Sunday on football. Tons of lines of guys. It can be fantasy points. It can be all-purpose yards. It can be pass yards. It can be rush yards. It can be receptions. It can be touchdowns. All these kind of lines, and you can pick them. It's very easy. The best way to think about it is it's parlays, except it's way simplified. If you pick two of these lines, you get 3 times your money if you win, if both hit. If you pick 3, you get 6 times your money. If you pick 4, you get 10 times your money. If you pick all 5, the max, you get 20 times your money if all 5 of the lines you pick hit. They also have rivals rather than the individual player lines, where you can pick a player, sometimes with a spread, sometimes with not, against a different player, usually in the same game or on the same team, to get more of whatever the stat they chose for that rivals is. It's a ton of options. It's completely legal. You win real money, and yeah, it's just so simplified. Even though we do bet, through bookies or sports books, I still use this app because it's so easy. It's so easy to like pull it up, and it's just like, oh, what are these lines at? Like, oh, pick this one, get a easy like ×3 or ×6.
Right. And to me, it's more convenient than like a sports book, because it's just like, oh, there's 2 I really like. I don't want to, go to a different sports book, check the like what odds they'd give me on a parlay. It's like I just load it up. I know I'm 3xing with these 2.
Right. And they also have like season-long fantasy drafts. They have weekly fantasy drafts, more of your traditional daily fantasy, if that's your bag as well. We just use it for a lot of stuff. I have several like year-long fantasy drafts that I did with them, and they call it best ball. So you don't have to worry about setting your lineup. You just get your best lineup each week, which is good because I'm in a lot of fantasy leagues, and I really like drafting them. But this one, I can kind of set it and forget it. I'll check in on it every week, but I don't have to be constantly patrolling it like I will be with 3 or 4 other fantasy leagues. So those are fun as well. Quick note, I will say, I did mention that fantasy lines can be used. Like, I believe you'll get a quarterback. They'll be like, their line is over under 19 fantasy points. That's your traditional half-point PPR, 4 points for a passing touchdown, 6 for receiving, 6 for touchdown, and 1 point for every 20 passing yards. 25 passing yards. Kind of your standard leagues, but don't get caught up and being like, oh, it's 6 points for a passing touchdown. That was in the back of my mind when I first started looking, and I liked every quarterback over, and then I went and checked it as 4 points for every passing touchdown. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your quarterback lines. So it's we have some underdog picks here for those of you who want to join us on those. So what I like doing is separating them per like time slot. So I have a Thursday night parlay. I have a noon pick'em, and I have a 3:25 game pick'em. That way, you kind of you can choose when you're not waiting for a guy on Monday night after your first 3 guys already hit their line. I like kind of keeping them in the same time slot. So my Thursday night, I got 3 picks, so that if all 3 hit, I'll 6x my money. I disagree with you slightly on the first one. I have Ezekiel Elliott, 85.5 rushing and receiving yards. And I'm going over on that one. I'm not very high on Zeke this year, but I think Dak is still going to, be finding his legs a little bit. I think they're really going to try to lean on Zeke. And, he's going to he's going to catch a couple balls. I think it doesn't take much to, make up the receiving portion that he'll need to get over 85 and a half. I don't think if he can, if he can catch 25 yards, well, then he only has to rush for 60. So that's the first leg. And then I agree with you on my next one. Going Scotty Miller over 10 and a half receiving yards. I think it's a lock. He averages over 10 and a half yards per reception. He needs one target and he needs to catch it when he's, wide receiver 4 out there.
Right.
I think the line is confusing to me. I think it would be a little higher.
I was almost hoping I could move it on my sports book.
Yeah.
Because all the other receivers, you could move it. Because I'm like, what would they give me for like Scotty Miller over like 19 and a half? It's a bit riskier, but if you can get like plus 300 or something. Be like
2 catches, right? It makes sense why they wouldn't. And then my third leg of that Thursday night one, I'm going Dak over 12 and a half rush yards. I have questioned on previous episodes, even if he is fully healthy, will he mentally be able to like tell himself to go on the run again? I think there'll be people in his ear, or it'll be part of his, game plan. Be like, get out there early and like just be the old Dak. I think he's gonna like look to run early to get back like into that mental spot. It's 12 and a half yards. That's probably 2 carries that he has to, broken play he has to take off. And especially with the front 5 of that Buccaneers D and maybe a offensive line with more holes than we're used to, I think we're more likely to see a busted player too, where he's kind of got to take off. So 12 and a half seems low, but I like it there. But he might be liable to go a 0 there and just stay in the pocket, but
right.
I like 12 and a half. So those are my 3. I'm looking 6 times my money on tonight.
Yeah, so I do have one for tonight too. Okay. It's only a 3x, so I only picked 2.
Yeah.
The lines, like, there's just so many out there for the Buccaneers, but like you said, it's not like that 60 to 70, and it's pretty much you gotta pick
gotta pick one of those receivers.
Who's gonna be there. And so I went Godwin over. They have it at 60 and a half on here. They do have it 1 yard higher, but
yeah,
if I lose because of a yard, well, is what it is. And then I also went Scotty Miller 10 and a half. I think I'm fairly confident that's a 3x right there, but yeah, I just like the spot.
Yeah, for sure. And then we will have our more sports book-esque bets on the Sunday show, but kind of highlighting Underdog here. We'll have our bets for the week right now. So noon, I have another 6 times, so 3 bets. I like Matt Ryan over 18.95 fantasy points. So basically need 19 fantasy points out of them. They're playing the Eagles. 300 yards should be very in the cards for Matt Ryan. That's, if he can pull that off, that's already 12 fantasy points. He just needs, a touchdown and a few more yards, or a few less yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
I just think they're going to be throwing it all over the place all year, the Falcons. I think Matt Ryan can do 19 fantasy points against the Eagles pretty easy. Another quarterback on a subpar team, I like Tyrod Taylor over 244.5 total yards. So, rushing and passing and receiving if they're getting a little tricky in Houston. Yeah, it's just that's for total yards. Like, I don't know how much him running or receiving is going to be in the game plan, but I think Tyrod is a just fine quarterback. I don't really have any other offensive threats. I don't think they're going to be running the ball 30 times a game. He's going to have the opportunity. They're playing a bad Jags defense. I just think I kind of just like, there's nothing to like about Houston, but I kind of like him against the Jaguars just because so many people are on the Jaguars. And then my final leg of that, I'm going Devonta Smith over 4 receptions. So I had 2 plays in that Falcons-Eagles game. It's what he does. It's a little bit of a risk because, it's a rookie receiver, with a young quarterback who's going to, is he going to be one of his favorite targets? But he just gets open. He's small. He's fast. He's going to be in the slot. 4 receptions. It's weird that's not 3.5 or 4.5. But I'm comfortable going over on that. So, yeah, that's my noon slot.
So I just have an all-day Sunday slot. There was a couple I was throwing around. I don't like doing the 20x. The amount of times I've been burned where you hit 4 and then
it's 10x for one more guy.
How
could you not?
Now kind of what I do, like five guys, I'll do a bunch of like 3x's, like
spread it
like
around,
round robin. Yeah. But I'm pretty much, I was dabbling with Najee under 87.5 rushing receiving. You know, that's Buffalo's defense is solid.
Yeah.
Was dabbling with it. I'm like, no, don't want to go with that. Debated about Dalvin Cook over 134.5 rushing receiving. It's just so high. I still think he'll do it, but I'm not confident enough to put my money where my mouth is. So then the 3 I settled on for a 6x is going to be James Robinson over 89.5 rushing receiving. With Trevor Lawrence, I don't know if the Jags will just say, here's the rock, go throw it 40 times.
Right.
And I mean, James Robinson was what, 1,100 yard rusher last year? I mean, just a solid guy. Not much in the receiving game. That's going to have to all come on the ground. Next one, I went with another running back who's playing with a rookie QB. That's Damian Harris, 69.5. Playing a pretty good Miami defense, but I do think I know I said Mac Jones will have a very long leash to play with, but I don't think, again, they're going to say, hey, go throw the ball 40 times in your debut. I think Damian Harris will probably get about 20 touches if I had to guess. So I kind of like the over 69.5 there. And finally, Alvin Kamara. I took the over on 110.5 rushing receiving against the Packers. I mean, no Michael Thomas. I think you'll see a lot of checkdowns from Jameis to Kamara.
So many touches he's going to get for these first few games of the season. He's the offense.
Right. And then, so that's my 6x of James Robinson, Damian Harris, and Alvin Kamara. Feel pretty comfortable with it. I might throw together like a 3x with Dalvin and Najee just to see, but.
Right. So my 325 slot, I just 2 picks, small little 3x to, boost my bank account in the middle of the day. Hopefully I won't need it, but might. I'm going Jameis over 243.5 pass yards. Kind of just talked about it with the Saints playing the Packers in Texas, Jacksonville, moved to Jacksonville. Weird situation. But he's going to have a lot of, and it's opportunities. Like Kamara is the feature of that offense, but he's also not a 20-25 carries a night type of back. A lot of those are checkdowns, and they're just going to throw it a ton with Jameis. So 250 pass yards is super doable. It's a fine enough Packers defense, but I think it's primed to, get past for 250 yards. And then I love this pick a lot. Myles Gaskin over 67.5 rushing and receiving yards. What am I missing here? That's such a low number for Gaskin.
Right.
He's going to get a decent amount of carries and probably catch a couple balls in Miami. Like 67 yards just seems quite low for him. Maybe they know something at Underdog that I don't. But, those are my 2. So hopefully, little 3x for my 325 slot.
I never really thought about when we touched on that Saints Packers moving to Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be a hot one.
Oh, yeah.
You have to imagine that gives the Packers quite an upper hand, just depth-wise.
You think so?
I mean, that Saints team, they just caught Latavius Murray. I know they got that Jones kid.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I just think the Packers probably run deeper than the Saints.
I think AJ Dillon gets 10 or 15 carries just in the.
I don't know about 15, but just I would.
If they get up.
Right. Yeah. I'd assume AJ Dillon gets a lot of time. I'm guessing the Packers run a consistent like 5 guys at wideout. I think you'll see a lot of wideouts sharing snaps. Because I think it's supposed to be like triple digits. It's supposed to be just ridiculously hot for that
Rodgers, game. In the pool at Jacksonville at halftime.
Right.
Taking a dip. But yeah, so that's kind of our underdog. Well, maybe we'll sprinkle in some picks that we like here and there throughout the season. If you guys like it, you can go check out Underdog. They have an app, and I like the app a lot. I use the web sometimes, but mostly I use it on the app. Enjoy that game tonight. I know we will. And we will see you guys for our show on Sunday, not on Monday, on Sunday.